For a second advanced example on nesting placeholders, I took my inspiration from our DataMiner dojo, our community questions page, where a lot of times already we had the question, can we do custom calculations on entire table columns? And with Visio now you can. The first thing we introduced back in the day was a way to visualize an entire column of values with a short parameter placeholder, so with the Param placeholder. Let me show you how it works. Just add a shape here, as always, starting just in shape text, which is the easiest thing to do. I have an element called Network Manager, and it has a certain column, column 107, that I want to sum up. Well, actually, it does not sum up yet. What it will do is it will separate all of the values. Let me rename my page first here. Calculations. Save it. And let's take a look. And we can see it gets all of the values here and it separates them with pipe characters. So let's take a look at our Network Manager element to give you some context of what we're looking at here. And we're looking at the different bit rates of our receivers. So these are just all appended one after the other. Now, what if I want to see in my Visio this, for instance, the sum of all the bit rates, or the average, or whatever. All of those things we can do with another placeholder by wrapping this one in a sum placeholder, for instance. Let me again show you first how it works with static values. We add the keyword sum in our square brackets, and then all we need to do is add a couple of values. So let's say sum of 100 and 200. I think you know the answer already. The sum of this is 300. Now all we need to do to get our actual sum in here is wrap this, and we don't even need to do anything to make this work, or do we? Let's check. This does not work. Why not? Well, our values in our param were separated by pipes, and the sum expects commas. So to leverage that, we can actually use the sep keyword. So that's a very common keyword as well in Visio. The sep keyword is used to denote that when our syntax expects a certain separator, we will be using a different one. So in this case, I had the sep keyword here, and we know the sum expects a comma, but we are using a pipe. Let's close that up. And it still does not work. Why not? Well, let's take a look at the sum placeholder on our docs to make sure we're not making any mistakes. So let me scroll down. The sum actually does not say this, but every number, every result that results in a date time or a time span accepts that format argument that we showed earlier in the DataMiner time section. Now, how does the syntax work? Well, if we make a sum of certain date times, so let's pretend this is date time 1 and this is a time span, and we make the sum of that, the result is a date time. And then, just like with the DataMiner time placeholder, we can add pipe format equals and then whatever we want as a format. Now, I'm not sure if you see the problem yet, but there is a pipe here. And this pipe is also checked in any of the sum placeholders, which means if I replace the sep with a pipe, it will actually still try to separate it for the format. So we need a different thing instead. We need to make sure the sum placeholder expects something different instead of the pipe as well. So we will add another sep here, and we will say, okay, let's replace the pipe with a hashtag. So now it actually expects a hashtag here, and we can reuse the pipe from this part. So let's save that, and we now get our result properly. So this is a sum of the entire column. As you can also see here, it's 9,400 and something megabit per second. Of course, when we edit the value, so we allowed some editing on here just to test, you can see the value jump here, but of course it also jumps over here. So that's the sum. Of course, you can also find this info for the sum and the format in the subtract placeholder right above this one. Here we are subtracting date times and time spans and things like that. And you can see here, you can pass the format option in there. So there's a couple of calculations we can do. You can do subtract, a sum, an average as well. Might be a couple more, but you can check the docs to find them. Alternatively, we could have used another placeholder instead of making two sep parts right behind each other. We could have used the Interlace placeholder. I did not do that here because it results in the same amount of effort, more or less. But if you specify an array, one or more arrays, but then if you want to just replace a separator, you can just specify one array. And then you put a comma and then the old separator and then a new separator. We can actually just replace all of the pipes we had. For instance, in this case, we replaced all of the pipes we had and interlaced the arrays. And then as separator, we used a semicolon, which gives us this result. If you would only pass the first array, you would just get x semicolon y semicolon z. So alternatively, I could have done this. And I could have used the interlace. And then tell the interlace we have a pipe to start and we want to replace it with a comma. But I think you can see the problem. We are using commas to separate the options, but then also using comma as the new placeholder. So actually, let's use a hashtag. And then again in the sum, I need to denote at least one separator, namely that I want to replace my comma with a hashtag. So the result of this interlace, let me show you that separately. Will be this. And then all we need to do is tell the sum placeholder that it's expecting a hashtag instead of the comma, and then that will work as well and get you the same result. So that's another couple of new placeholders and a very advanced example, but a very common and powerful one.